Hi everyone. So, this is my first video in a while because I'm now able to speak without being in severe pain. Yes, the tooth face pain is improving, which yay, I'm very happy about because I can actually now start being functional again. So basically, this whole experience has taught me how much pain can affect your life and your experience, and in a lot of ways who you are. Because before this, I've not really had very many experiences of severe or intense pain, at least not in the last 10 years. So people would tell me how they're struggling with pain, or they haven't been able to do anything because of pain, or they have been in bed because of pain. And up until now, I never really fully understood exactly how debilitating it can be to be in constant pain. And my experience that I've had now is that it was at a kind of stable level for a couple of weeks, and then over a few days it got much worse. And the worst part of it was that it was constant. So in the beginning, where I could tolerate it, where it was at that kind of stable level, there were certain things I could do that would take my mind off of it, where that my focus would shift and pain wouldn't be so much in my awareness. And other things that I struggled to do where the pain would kind of flare up more. But in those days where it got really intense, I just became less and less functional. There was less and less that I could do because I couldn't concentrate. I couldn't do certain movements. And it also started affecting how I was dealing with my world around me. My patience was much less. I was getting frustrated more easily and more quickly. And I was feeling quite, in general, quite frustrated because I wasn't able to be productive in a way that I usually am. I wasn't able to do the things that I can usually do. And it frustrated me. So that also contributed to this whole kind of bubbling experience that was just getting bigger and bigger and worse. And then on the day that I said, no ways, I can't do this anymore, I have to try and figure out what's causing the pain, what also had come into the picture to a pretty large degree was self-pity. I was feeling very sorry for myself, and I was at the stage that it was almost like I'd made a choice within me of, okay, this is it, I cannot handle this anymore. If this does not stop now, it will break me. Which is quite interesting, because that's another thing that I'd never really been able to comprehend so much before, of reaching that point of actually the potential being real of, in some way, just breaking down, just completely not being able to handle something and just melting into a puddle of goo, and that's it. So it was the first time that I had reached that kind of point within myself in relation to pain and in relation to breaking point. Now, having said all of that, okay, so if we're in pain, yes, it does make things more difficult. Yes, it can make things sometimes even unbearable. And in a lot of ways, yes, we kind of can't really do anything about the pain, and sometimes we just kind of have to manage ourselves to make sure that we are not placed in a position where we're going to take out our experiences on the people or things around us. But within that also, I think that it is important to challenge ourselves to be better, to do better, to develop our patience in spite of being in pain, to develop our ability to deal with experiences of frustration in spite of being in pain, to be able to not get to that point of being frustrated because we're in pain. So, as difficult as it is, I think that it is possible. Now, on the other hand, it's also important that we practice patience with the people in our lives who are going through experiences that involve things like pain, chronic pain. Because a lot of the time we don't know what it's like to go through that kind of long-term pain. And it can really be soul-crushing. So, in this context, there are two ways that we can develop ourselves. If we're the one in pain, we can push ourselves to be better, to do better, to not let that pain rule our world, our experiences, our expression, who we are. And then if there's someone in our life who has chronic pain, or even if it's acute pain, to support them through that, because it is a challenging thing to go through. And then there was one final point that I wanted to go over, which I now cannot remember. And okay, I'll just have to come back to that in another video. So, I learned, breaking point. Other thing that I learned about myself, of how I do have a breaking point. Now, my challenge to myself is that, okay, I have found out that there is a point at which I am going to be thinking about, I cannot take this anymore, I can't handle this anymore, this is it. It's finished, I can't do it. My challenge to myself is that if I ever find myself in a position where those thoughts start coming up, I would like to see how far I can push myself to not give in to those thoughts, to not believe those thoughts, to keep going despite those thoughts. Yes, obviously not to the point where I am harming myself or allowing something to go untreated, but let's say that something happens where I do have to deal with a particularly challenging situation, like for example pain, and I have been developing the solution for it or been going for treatment or whatever. How much further can I push my breaking point back, even to the point where there is no breaking point, where no matter what happens, I will stand and I will not waver, not change, not give up, not give in to that self-pity point. So maybe I'll never even have to face that in my life again, who knows? But after having told myself that I would never break, it was quite an interesting experience, and now on reflecting back on it, I would be curious to find out what would be different in the future, how I would make it different in the future. Okay, so that's my update on my experience with this nerve pain. and yes, I shall hopefully now be back on track with my average of 2 videos a week. And yeah, that's it for the moment. If you'd like to support me, you can do so on Patreon. The link will be in the description below. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time.